G'day traders and welcome to another weekly wrap up for December 9th through to the 13th. In these wrap ups we focus on the US future markets. So we predominantly look at the S&P 500, which is this screen here. This is the biggest traded market in the US. Then we look at other related markets such as the Russell, top left hand side, NASDAQ, bottom left hand side. So to start off with, let's have a look at the overall week. What I'm doing here is bringing up a daily chart, and we're just looking at these last 5 days here. So basically this little section here. Now you can see we've had, sorry, not including that candle, this one here, we had a little pop-up day here, 3 strong days to the downside. Now we're just having a little bit of a consolidation here. Essentially what we want to look at, and let me just remove the box, we're trying to format this bit of a pattern where we're heading down. We've come back, we've tested this bit of a double top here, and of course we're looking at a lot of data here. We're looking at months and months worth of data, so it's very compressed. But we've got this little bit of a double top here where they haven't been able to force their way higher. You can see previously they keep on going higher and higher and higher. We've come down to this, what we call a swing low down here. This is an obvious low point in the market. You can see we're starting to break down through that. So what they want to do, if they really want to get some strength on the downside, is get some consolidation through there and even start heading down to this next point here. This would be really ideal if we see them come down and break through this. That's a real indication that the sellers around. We're going to start to see the real market really moving back. Why do we encourage selling on these markets? The fact is we can go both ways. We can buy or sell in this market, so we don't really care too much about what the overall market doing as to whether we're buying and selling. It doesn't affect us that way, but we do like it when the market pulls back and there is some sellers, because what that does encourages the market to move a lot more. We get a lot more trading opportunities. When the market's pushing higher like this, every time it comes at these highs that you can see, you'll see these candles shorten up. We get slower days with less width. But as soon as we pull back, the candles get bigger. So we're going to start to see some more action by pulling back. If we can get down underneath this level here, we'll start to see even more action and start to really see this fight between the buyers and sellers come into play, and therefore creates more trading opportunities. So this particular week we had some pretty good days. We also had some slower days. It's a combination of, yes, the market's pulling back, so expect more movement, absolutely, but also we're coming into the end of the year. We've only got one full week left before the Christmas New Year's break, and then we move into January, February, which is typically slow. So if we can keep these markets pulling back, hopefully it'll keep price action a little bit higher, a little bit better. But remembering we are coming into a slow period of the year, a little bit of a break that we have leading up to Christmas. So I'm bringing up the 15-minute charts now. This is just, again, a longer term perspective of what we're looking at in our training rooms. We always bring this up and really have a chat about what's happening, what's the longer term direction doing, as in what's happening over the last few days, and are we at support and resistance. So these blue lines are just major areas that we mark in, areas of confluency where the market just keeps on reacting to them. Okay, so this is the top here. You see the market's come up 3-4 times or multiple times, just hasn't been able to push through. So that's a significant area if the market comes back ever to that stage. Here's another area here. It's just an area where it's bounce, 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 push through, then it's bounce, bounce, bounce again. Over here, we already would have had this line drawn in, so I had it drawn in. It's just popped through it a few times, but it's still been around about area where it holds it down to push lower from. Okay, so these lines aren't designed to be exact to the tick, but they're just general areas to be aware of support and resistance. You can see each of these areas, there's something major going on at each of these areas, and sometimes you have to go back a little bit further to see it. We're drawing across multiple months or even multiple weeks of markets. So as far as, this is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. Okay, so we really stuck within a range in Monday. We popped down sort of a level Tuesday. Wednesday, really big day. This is our big pullback day. You can see we've gone through multiple levels, but as we go through these levels, we're still respecting them in some sort of way. We've come down, and then Thursday, Friday, we've just these last 2 days here, we really just stuck down between this last little channel and looking to break down even further. So this particular line here, this is a very major support and resistance. Should almost make that thicker so we can really understand how important it is. You can see the market just bouncing off it, just at this stage unable to push short. If I take you back in time, it was a level that held the markets up significantly, but then it was also a level that held the markets down. So it's like this, and there it is there as well. So it's like this real pivotal point in the market. It was like this ceiling, what we call resistance, then all of a sudden, big time support, which held the market up, and now scroll across, we're still hanging around this area here. Right, so that in mind, let's go across and have a look at each of these individual days. So I've got Monday here, and what we do is we just bring across those blue lines. We make them purple on the 1 minute chart just so we can see them. So these are already marked in at the start of the day. We're not adding them as we're going along or anything. We make it very simple. We just identify it on the longer term charts, and as we start the day, we draw them on. It's that simple. These white arrows here just represent the first swing point of the day, just so we can see what other markets are doing. So if I mark this swing point here on the main chart that we're trading, you can see throughout the day what we're doing in regards to that first swing. And then you look across the other markets, same thing. Here's the Russell. You can see first swing point, which is the same as its S&P, the main market we trade. And you can see this particular market, it popped up with it, but then all day long it was trying to push lower. See how much it's banged through this area, this white arrow area, and it's just stayed lower. Whereas this other market over here, the Nasdaq, just really was trying to go higher from it. So this particular day, there wasn't a lot of confluency between the other markets, which is rare because normally these other markets giving us a good indication of what the market we're trading is doing. Okay, we can look across and see these other two markets sort of working together and heading in the same direction, and we get a good idea of that momentum or direction in that area. This particular day, however, it was quite different. The other markets were really doing their own thing. So when you see something like that, how I take that is I say, okay, there's really uncertainty within the market. There's no clear buying or selling direction, so just to be careful. And that's really just what's happened here. It's banged between support and resistance, and it's just gone nowhere. At the end of the day, the other markets were sort of, one was up, one was down, and the S&P, the market we trade, just really didn't know what to do. So what we like to do, you can see the green box in here, we like to trade either breakouts, what we call continuations, or reversions, where it comes back within the range. So you can see here it's popped back up within the range. So if we look across, obviously to the other markets, on the left hand side, top left there, the Russell, very much supporting it, because essentially its box equivalent area there is that equivalent swing high point up there. So as we're coming back at this swing point, see how low the Russell is, giving a lot of indication that the sellers around. Down with the Nasdaq, let me just get my pencil. There's that same swing. So it's starting to break up through it. It has been on the upside all day long, but you can see not with any sort of great sort of power. So this is an area that had some potential to come back within the range, which is exactly what it does. So that was probably the better trading opportunity of that particular day. Okay, so now moving along to Tuesday, and you can see again the white arrows just mark a little bit of a swing point of what the other markets are doing. You can see they've all really headed higher from these white arrows, trying to head to the upside. We've got a major support resistance area here, which held the market down for a while. It's then popped back off the box and then tried to break up through it without any sort of power from the S&P, the market that we trade. Whereas the other markets, you can see them really starting to try and push higher. Then all of a sudden we temporarily came down and popped down through this box. So looking to break out through this box, but really look across the other markets, there's certainly no support from those other markets. They're not all pushing through, showing that there's a real you show that the sellers around that they're looking to go lower here, so not an area that we'd be looking for when you can't see those sellers across the markets. Then pops back up within the range, and you can see there's a major support resistance area, which is really just held this market down from going any higher, even though the other markets were trying to push it back up. Okay, so we just moved along to Wednesday. Now Wednesday was the big pullback day. We had a big downside within the markets. See multiple support resistance areas marked here, and as we move through the market, you'll see that there's multiple areas. As we just kept on going low, we just kept on adding those support resistance from the longer term chart, which we've already got marked in. So very much some power on the downside from the other markets. You can see the left hand side markets too, they're all pushing lower. So as we came down lower, here's this power box that we draw in. So we pop down here, pull back 3 points, so we look to to measure that one. And of course, today is a lot better one for the breakout. There's power and all sorts of things on the downside looking to go back from the range. Certainly not a day looking for that. So when we get a big spike out or power through there, we really look for it to come back, give a bit more room and come back to the edge and then push lower again. So it's come back to this edge, push lower again. Great day for continuations or breakouts through the downside. You see we've come to this next support resistance level. It's pushed down through a little bit, but then it's it's really doing something around this area. The price is really respecting this area for a while before it eventually goes again. What was happening around here? We'll see in the market power to the downside, really starting to shorten and push down, big pull back, and then a smaller push down, pull back, smaller push down, pull back, smaller. And there's this shortening of the power, so to speak. It looked like it was trying to hold up and turn back around to the other side, and watching the other markets as well, starting to really flatten out, thinking, okay, maybe it's going to get something to turn back around and look at the opposite direction. But then all of a sudden it started its power back down to the downside. So this is the sort of thing we're watching in real time, looking at price action. We weren't looking to trade anything unless it started breaking back up through some levels. But the fact is, through here we could see the downside power starting to really shorten, thinking that the market was going to turn around. But in the end, this power of the downside just kicked back in, and down it went again to these major support resistance levels. So this one here, 87.50, was really a level that held the market for a while. And then again, it's had another real thrust to the downside, showing just how powerful these sellers are at the moment. Moving along to Thursday, you can see again I've marked the white arrows to represent this first swing point, just to give an idea of what other markets are doing, just in relation to around the opening sort of area of the market. It's a good little gauge point. Again, we've got our power, what we call our power box, so just marks significant high and low points. So going back earlier, here's a significant low point here. You can see it's come down, bounced off an area, and then headed higher. So that's a point we want to measure within this market. So to start off with, we came down. We got a bit of a bounce here. So we're marking in that major power box area. We came down around this area here. If you look across the other markets, it's really the other markets are holding it and showing signs of really wanting to head back up within the range. There's no, if you sort of look across to where the line is marked on the other charts, here you can see they're holding. They're looking like they want to push higher, and from that we're getting information that maybe it wants to revert back from the range. So going back from the range would have been, certainly probable trade within this area. You can see in hindsight this particular market has pushed through, so we would look to trade around here. It started to bounce a little bit, but then as it starts to break back down again, we'll be getting out of the trade. Okay, that's not looking to work, and then it started to break through. But even though it's breaking through this market, again on the other markets, they're starting to get some down pressure, but they're not really busting down through the area that we look for. So I'm looking for a continuation or breakout. Not particularly suited to this area here. This area here, I'd say, a lot of power back to the upside. If you look again across the other markets, look how high they're sitting. Look how they've just really shot off through this area here and haven't really come back, showing that there's certainly some buyers around. In the short term anyway, that's where they've gone. They've gone up a good 4+ points from there up to this support resistance line. That's where they've found resistance then to push back down lower. We just came down to this major support resistance. So this is this major area I talked about on that 15-minute chart, that real pivotal area. So as we're going through these markets, we're talking about this in real time, going, okay, this is a major area. Let's see what it wants to do. It temporarily got down through there. But we don't really see it holding it strong until it can really bounce a couple of points off it. So it came back, tested a few times, but ultimately it was an area that held and pushed the market higher. And you can see, see how well these support resistance lines work. Again, like I said, it's not exactly to the tick, but it's a general area. They do something to the market. So we always know as it's coming to each area, it can maybe hold, it can even maybe break through. Ultimately, but we look across to those other support markets and see where they're heading and what they're doing to give us an idea of what these major support areas are going to do. So moving along to Friday. Friday quite often is the slowest day of the week, just because the week's starting to wrap up. I guess volume starts to drop, and as a result, it's normally our tightest days. That or Monday. Best trading is certainly during the middle of the week, that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can see we've got major support resistance areas in here. we've got our power box drawn in, and basically throughout the day it just stuck within a range and didn't really go anywhere. It came down to this major support resistance area, bounced off it, just really stuck within the range. Then came back down to this edge without going through it. It held and headed back within the range. Other markets were looking okay in this particular area to hold. Nothing was really breaking down through the area. So if you hang around, this is late in the afternoon Friday, so not normally trading around then. But if you were hanging around at this time, potentially holding and going back in the range certainly looked like the case when you look across to the other markets. And then from there, we've ultimately bounced back off this support resistance area and headed back in the range to where we closed the markets for the week. So that's the wrap up. I hope you all trading well, and we'll be back next week to do our final wrap up, and then of course we'll have our end of year break and for a couple of weeks, and then be back. So we'll speak to you very soon.